I know it sounds strange for a self-acclaimed EV optimist like myself to be saying that somehow EV adoption may have negative consequences in the world. There's this unspoken rule amongst YouTubers in this space that once you are EV leaning, then you should concentrate on speaking only the positive things that encourage adoption of EVs. You should disregard anything else that is contrary because it will discourage the adoption of electric vehicles which are good for the environment. But I think that we owe the society the truth. People should make decisions that are based on balanced information, especially from us who are in the space who may know a lot more than our friends who are not in this space. The USA ranks 17th on the Global Quality Index, trailing such countries like Portugal, Spain, and Croatia. The rise in EV adoption may make this situation worse, and I'm going to show you how and what I think could be done to avoid a disaster of a deteriorating road infrastructure. So a few days ago, I was following a discussion with others who also like to talk about electric vehicles, and a topic came up on how electric vehicle owners are not contributing a fair share towards road maintenance and new road infrastructure development. So the topic quickly divided us into two camps. One camp that was completely against the idea of taxing electric vehicles, and another camp that was okay with an idea. And I'm going to share with you arguments from both sides. But before I do that, let me give you some background. Many countries in the world, including the UK and Australia, have some form of road tax. The USA at federal level does not have such a tax. However, states are free to charge whatever they deem fit, and close to half of the states do. I'm going to talk more about that later. But the USA has a so-called gas tax, which is 18 cents a gallon of gas and 24 cents a gallon of diesel. The gas tax is a very fair system when it comes to road maintenance because if you think about it, the damage that a car can make to the road is dependent on two main factors. Number one, how heavy the vehicle is. Number two, the frequency that the vehicle uses the road infrastructure. So the gas tax is a well-designed user fee because how much gas one uses depends on how heavy the car is and how frequently the car is used. But there's a problem. EVs are growing in popularity, but they are not paying the gas tax because they are electric. Meaning they do contribute to the damage of the public road infrastructure, but they do not contribute towards the cost of maintaining them and building newer road infrastructure. It is no wonder that we have a backlog of around $780 billion in capital needs of public road infrastructure. I need to highlight that the poor road condition coming from this backlog that I've mentioned is not purely an EV problem. Actually, it is partly due to the way the gas tax was structured. It is not indexed to inflation. So for context, the last time that the gas tax was revised was in 1993, moving from 14 cents to the current 18 cents. If it had been pegged to inflation, it would have been 33 cents today, almost double what it is today. I'll reserve the discussion on why they did not peg it to inflation because that could be a video on its own. With the growth of EV, this problem could be compounded. And I know you are thinking in your head, why are EVs not taxed a fair amount although they are using the same public infrastructure that are partly paid for by the gas tax? There are two main reasons for this. Number one is to do with the implementation framework. Government has a choice to mandate that every car should have a GPS tracker. The data that is collected from this GPS tracker, government can know exactly how much a particular vehicle has used the public road infrastructure, and therefore a fair amount of tax could be charged against that vehicle, and that could be fair for everyone. Most people would not approve this because, you guessed it, privacy issues. And our politicians know this. They know that the American public does not enjoy being watched by some big brother, some big government. For this reason, I do not think that we are going to see any mandatory GPS trackers anytime soon. Our politicians cannot allow this. The political cost is very high. Another way to implement the EV tax is to allow EV owners to report on voluntary basis the amount of mileage they have covered in a specific period of time, a year for example. From that information, a fair tax can be levied against that particular driver in the car. Unfortunately, a lot of US states no longer conduct annual inspections for emissions and safety of vehicles. And because of that, there's no platform where the reported miles could be verified. Just to be clear, states are likely to be opposed to the idea of setting up newer infrastructure to carry out these services because in the long term, this could be costly for them. States generally like to have infrastructure that bring them money as opposed to infrastructure that drain them the resources. At the beginning, I mentioned that there are some states that charge an EV tax to cover lost revenue from electric vehicles not paying the gas tax. What these states have done is to set a flat rate for everyone, whether you drive Hummer EV or Model 3. Regardless of weight or frequency of use of public roads, you pay a flat fee. This has irked some EV owners. They think that the system is unfair. Some believe that the tax is necessary, but it should be redesigned to be able to discriminate between those that frequently use the road and those that infrequently use the road, and also between those that use heavier vehicles and those that use lighter vehicles. There is another group that outright rejects the idea of EV tax. I think this is a dangerous group. How could you be using public roads and expect other road users to be able to pay your bill in terms of maintenance and development of new road infrastructure? This doesn't make sense to me. Most of you argue that implementing an EV tax will derail climate change action because, in your view, people will suddenly stop buying electric vehicles and will go back to gas cars. I doubt if that would really be the case because EVs are already heavily subsidized by taxpayers' money through programs like the Inflation Reduction Act and other state-specific initiatives. In the end, EVs have a lower total cost of ownership. The EV tax would not fundamentally change mathematics from a total cost of ownership perspective, but certainly it would have positive results on the road infrastructure development side. But again, I have a second rebuttal against your argument. Most people who buy electric cars are aware of the environmental benefits that the cars bring. I do not believe that an EV tax to fund our public roads would fundamentally change their value system and their worldview. So, what should be done? Every state should implement a flat tax that is based on the weight of the vehicle and also based on the average mileage covered by an average driver in a particular year. This is not a completely fair or perfect solution, but it will be able to cover the deficits that the Highway Trust Fund is facing today. Otherwise, if these deficits continue unchecked, the roads will become impassable, cost the drivers more in repairs, and the USA will continue to trail other less developed countries in terms of the road quality index in the world. Let me hear your thoughts. Which side are you? Should we tax EVs or should we not tax the EVs to help with funding the public road infrastructure? Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.